watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment.
Hello and welcome back to our channel. My name is Anne.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're Postcards from Our Golden Years. We're so happy to see you. It's been a while since we just sat down and had a frank conversation about life here in France. So today we decided that we would share with you some very important things that you should know if you are considering moving to France. Now, some of the things that we will talk about may be focused on our life here in Nice, but there are things that you should think about wherever in France you decide to move. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about are probably going to be the same no matter where you move to in France. Life is different. So particularly when you come here from the United States, you cannot expect that everything is going to be exactly as it was in the United States. It's just not reality. Things like foods and appliances and power and all of that stuff we're going to get into in this video. But that is the first and above all, foremost thing that you have to remember from the day you start thinking about moving to France till the very day you set foot here and start getting your home all set up. This is not the United States. This is France. So with that being said, okay, we have found the cost of living to be a lot less here in France than it was in the United States. Now, in all fairness, we came from a pricey tourist town, Naples, Florida. It was expensive to live in Naples to begin with, so it wasn't going to be hard to beat the expenses of living in Naples. But our living expenses here in Nice, I'm only talking about Nice, are less than half of what we used to pay to live in Naples, Florida. Now, we don't have a car, so that was a big chunk that came right off. Utilities, extremely inexpensive. In Florida, we were paying between $350 and $450 per month to the electric company because it was either air conditioning or heat that we were using, with very few days that we had nothing on. Here in France, with the portable air conditioners we have, it averages out to maybe $100 or 100 euros a month, maybe less, which is a whole lot less on electric costs. We are literally living on our U.S. Social Security benefits. Now, when I say this, a lot of people freak out and they go, oh, that's impossible. How could you possibly do that? We just happen to have had lucrative careers, and if you're applying for Social Security or you're on it, you know there are different levels of Social Security, and it's based on what your income was in the United States during your working years. So, and I waited until I was 70 years old to collect my full benefit. So not everybody is going to be able to live on their Social Security here in France. We just happen to luck out. You may look at your Social Security payment and it doesn't even come close to meeting the minimum financial requirement to live in France. And so you're going to have to supplement with savings and other things. We're able to do it with our Social Security alone. So for us, the cost of living was a lot less expensive. If we went back to the United States today, there is no way we could live on our Social Security or benefits. There's no way. Here, life is wonderful. We even have money left over at the end of each month if we don't splurge on, too many dinners out. But we're living a very comfortable life on just our U.S. Social Security benefits. So depending on where you choose to live in France, your cost of living is going to differ. And I suggest that you visit a few different areas of France that you're thinking about moving to and staying there and walk around, feel what it's like to live there. Stay in an Airbnb that isn't necessarily in a tourist area, so that you get a feel for what life is, especially if it's a big city. Life in a big city away from the tourists. Vacation rentals, unfortunately, vacation rentals are much more expensive than rent. That's the other piece of it. If we wanted to rent an Airbnb that was 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, 1 bath, it would probably cost nearly 3,000 a month, 3,000 euros a month to rent it. Our rent is, half of that on a long-term lease. So the cost of living is different than what it costs here to come on vacation. So you've got to keep that in mind. Also, rentals. Rentals are very difficult to find. There are no MLSs in France. There may be some corporate entities that have a database where multiple offices that they own in France can communicate and share listings. But for the most part, there's no MLS. And so when you come here looking for a rental, you have to go to every single real estate office and ask what they have available. They're not going to share with you what the real estate office down the street has because there's no incentive. They don't share commissions. So it becomes a full-time job looking for an apartment. To save us a lot of time and money and energy, we worked with Adrian Leeds Group, and they're a full-service agency, and they helped us find an apartment. Actually, we started looking right after we submitted our online visa application. So we started looking a month and a half ahead, so we would move directly into our long-term apartment. So the Adrian Leeds Group, they were wonderful. They have all the contacts. They saved us all the legwork. I mean, there are probably hundreds of real estate offices here in Nice alone. If we hadn't gone to Adrian Leeds, we would have had to make all the phone calls, do all the emails, go door to door with our dossier and our guarantor, trying to figure out who's got a rental that is going to work for us. And they won't show you lots of rentals. So you can't say, show me everything, or you can't say, show me more, show me more. They don't have that kind of an attitude here. Realtors will only show you a rental, an available rental, if you're ready to sign a lease today, if you like that apartment. And typically, if you're dealing with a French landlord, you're going to need a guarantor. That's like a cosigner. Typically, they want somebody who is French, a French friend or family member who will provide their own dossier and guarantee that if you don't pay your rent, they will. Most of us don't know a French family member or friend who would do that for us. And so we had to work with a company called GarantMe.com, which is like an insurance company. So before we could even go out and start looking for a rental, we had to go to GarantMe.com and complete their application for a pre-qualification. And it's free. So they send you a certificate. You'll submit all kinds of financial information. They will review it, and then they will tell you the max rent that they will guarantee for you. And then you take that guarantee, that certificate, and your dossier showing all of your financials. You're going to need that. to present to potential landlords so that they can decide if they get a good feeling about you, if they want to rent to you. And ultimately, it's the landlord who's going to make the decision on whether you get that apartment. So it's a whole different world looking for a rental here. And, as fast as rentals become available, particularly in the big cities, as fast as they become available, they are snapped up, and there are typically multiple applicants chasing the same available apartments. So you have to keep that in mind, and you need to be able to move fast, and you need to be able to compromise on some of your demands on what you must have in an apartment. I mean, you can say, I must have an apartment with a lift, which was one of our demands. But if you say, I must have an apartment with air conditioning, you're lessening your chances of finding an apartment. If you say, I must have an apartment with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, you may get the 2 bedrooms, but you may have to compromise on the 2 bathrooms. It's not typical to find 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. So, it's a whole full-time job looking for an apartment if you try to do it yourself. And that's why we used a company like Adrian Leeds Group. And there are other companies here, but we went with Adrian's company because most of her employees are American expats who know what Americans like. They've gone through the entire process themselves, and they speak French. They can read and understand a French lease, so we didn't have to hire a separate notaire to read and evaluate our lease for us. They negotiate your rent for you. They helped us get our electric turned on. If we wanted them to, they could have helped us get the internet and cable set up. They could have introduced us to bank account managers. They have a whole bunch of services they do. And if they don't do it, they have people that they have partnered with that they will recommend you to or refer you to that can help you with the process. So, a lot of people say, I don't want to pay a fee. But let me tell you, a lot of people would rather be penny wise and a pound smart than spend the money, pay the fee to get an agency, a full service agency to help you. In our case, it saved us having to spend 3 months or more in an Airbnb that was going to cost between 3,000 and 4,000 euros a month. We didn't even have to do that. We moved one time from the United States directly into the apartment that we selected here, and it is all worked out. So you need to do your research on the cost of living in the particular town that you're considering moving to. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is getting your stuff here. Getting your stuff here is not going to be cheap unless you're coming with like a couple of suitcases, and that's it. If you are moving any amount of your stuff in boxes, shipping things here, it's not cheap. We literally gave away, donated, or sold probably 90% of our stuff that we had collected over a lifetime. We ended up with 62 moving boxes. They were medium-sized movers boxes, but they were packed very lightly because most of it was like I wanted some of my good crystal wine glasses. So there may have been 6 in a box, and there may have been 2 or 3 boxes. So that's how we ended up with so many boxes. If I wasn't trying to make sure that fragile things were very safe, we could have done it in a lot less boxes. But we had a great mover, but it did cost us thousands of dollars to move what little we did move from the U.S. to France.
Well, the first thing to be aware of is in the United States, our voltage that comes out of our outlets is 110 volt and 60 hertz. And in France, all the outlets are 220 volt and 50 hertz. So many people are attached to appliances, blenders, mixers, all kinds of stuff, power tools. When you come here, if you plug them right in, they will get fried because the voltage is wrong. So be very careful. When I decided we were coming, I made the decision, televisions, everything electronic or electric would have to stay in the United States.
Except for our laptop computers.
Now, mainly because most computers have a power brick that changes the voltage coming out of the wall to something that a lower voltage that plugs into the laptop computer. And the other thing is, there is an Amazon United States and there is an Amazon France.
But one thing on the power converter that I should say, the first day that we got here, we went on Amazon France to order the power cord, and you simply go to Amazon France and you do a search for your computer type and just order a new adapter, and by default it's going to come with the right plug. And so we did that, and within 2 days
we were up and powered, plugged in, and charging our computers. Now, one thing to be aware of is American computers have a certain keyboard, and French computers have a different keyboard.
we just discovered this.
We did, because we replaced one of our laptops with a new French one, thinking it would be perfect. It would just zip right in. What we had to do as a workaround is Anne had to go and order an American keyboard that wirelessly synced with her new laptop, because there are different characters on a French laptop than there are on an American. And one of the most important missing ones is the $ symbol.
Well, it wasn't missing. It was, I could not figure out how to type it. The American keyboard is called a QWERTY keyboard because of the way the letters are. And the French keyboard is an AZERTY keyboard because of the way the letters, the order of the letters.
Right.
So they had a $ on the keys. The problem was I was hitting shift, I was hitting all kinds of things. I could not type a $. And what was the other one? I couldn't do the and sign like in an email address.
Right.
Could not figure it out. And I even Googled, how do you type this on a French keyboard? And it gave me instructions and I followed them and I still couldn't do it. So what I had to do was open up a website that had an and sign and a $ and copy and paste them wherever I needed to type an email address or a $. As Jeff said, I ended up going onto Amazon and ordering a brand new wireless keyboard that sits now on top of the keyboard on my laptop.
But then it's the American standard keyboard,
Yes.
and then you could zoom in and type just comfortably without having to stare at the keys again. So that's one of the big changes, is the keyboards are just a little different here in France than the American standard keyboards.
Yes, exactly.
For the voltage conversion, we have heard from some people that there is actually a large box, well over €100, that converts the voltage from 220 volt to the 110 60 hertz for American. I really suggest you just purchase new appliances when you get to France. Buy the voltage, buy the appliances that are set up for the French voltage, and life will be much happier. It was the saddest day in our life when we plugged in a coffee maker and it just fizzled out and was gone. So fresh appliances when you get here with the correct voltage. Same with tools. I left my drills and all my other stuff at home, and I went to the local hardware here and I bought new European drills and a saw and those kind of things. So there it is a transition from the United States to Europe. Another topic would be, we came from Florida, the land of mosquitoes, and we were very used to always having screens on all of our sliding door openings. In France, for some reason, they really don't screen the openings, but they do let the air blow through. They count on the ventilation to cool the apartment. So Anne found screens that are magnetic closer in the middle with a Velcro strip that goes around the door. Those were the perfect answer for us because none of our door openings had any screening in them at all, and the mosquitoes can be a problem. One of our neighbors moved in and had mosquito bites after their first night here in Nice, so there are options available. So as we came from the United States, that was one of our fixes, was to get some screens that went on the sliding door openings to keep the insects out.
And we did that. I found them on Temu. One of our subscribers told me that he bought them for his apartment, and he bought them on Temu, which I hadn't even thought of at that particular point. I went on Temu and I bought screens for both of our sliding glass doors. They have all different sizes. You'll be shocked at how inexpensive they are. And Jeff, how many minutes did it take you to put them up?
It takes maybe under 5 minutes to get them all up and installed. And they work great. As you just walk up to the screen, you just start your hand through the opening and the magnets open up and you're out and in and out. Now, the other hint we've heard is that there are flowers, geraniums.
Yes.
That you can put out on your balcony. And as you walk around, you'll see a lot of these red geraniums on all the balconies. We were told that geraniums are a natural repellent for mosquitoes here in France. And that's why you see so many geraniums on terraces.
And it's worked for us. For the summers we've been here, this is our third summer.
That is.
Never had a problem with mosquitoes.
Right. So using a natural flower barrier plus the screens have made our life much happier here and prevented a lot of mosquito bites here in Nice.
And you just learned something new from one of our neighbors.
One of our neighbors mentioned that a garlic, if you take garlic and plant it in one of your plants out on your terrace,
Not plant it, but sit it.
sit the whole bulb out there.
Yeah.
The garlic is also a repellent for mosquitoes. So I had read a story a long time ago. That is a secret that Disney World uses in Florida to get mosquitoes out of there. They plant garlic bulbs around. And so that we're going to try that too. But we've been happy with the Temu screens, the geraniums, and now we're going to up it to garlic to try and chase those nasty mosquitoes away.
Exactly. And then the last thing, as far as air, Jeff, you recently did a video on your own channel about updating our air conditioners.
What happened is many of the apartment buildings here, they use a central boiler and have hot water heat. So different than the United States where you have ductwork and a fan that blows air around your apartment, here the boiler does not move any air into the apartment, so it's not normal to find air conditioning. Only 1 out of 4 apartments in France has air conditioning. And with the summers getting hotter, we have found portable air conditioners the best answer. And I do have a link on my page to show you what I found. The Medea Porta Split was like the nicest one we found so far. And if you check that out there, you might have an answer. So we have brought air conditioning. Well, we were from Florida. We lived in air conditioning, but we find that here in France, air conditioning is not as common as it was in Florida.
Okay, and speaking of air conditioning, one other thing that we should mention, for those of you who are thinking about where the best place in France to move to would be. A lot of people think that the south of France is so hot. Oh my gosh, I would never move to the south of France, a lot of you say, because it's so hot. Well, truth be known, we've lived here, as I mentioned. This is our third summer here in Nice.
Yes.
Yes, it does get hot on some days, and you have to learn to schedule your life around the hottest part of the afternoon. However, it's not hot every single day. It's not like Florida. And for the majority of the time that it is hot, it's not hot and humid like Florida. And when it was very hot here in Nice, and we looked at the weather around France, we often found that it was even hotter in places that were further away from the Mediterranean.
It seems like we get a little bit of a sea breeze comes
Yes.
in. Usually in the morning we get a nice breeze and it's fairly cool when we wake up in the morning. It gets a little warm in the afternoon, but then again as the sun sets, it cools off again in the evening. So the restaurants around here open at 7, and people go out after 7 o'clock to eat dinner because it's cooler in the evening. And we found if we adjust our schedule, we live by the French schedule, and it works very comfortably.
So there's no way to really get away from the summer heat if you're coming to France and you don't want to live someplace that's really hot. Because I'm sure that you're going to find that if you move further north than Nice and the southern part of France along the Mediterranean, it's going to be even hotter there in the summertime. The surprise for us when we moved to Nice was that it gets cold here in the wintertime.
Yes.
Now, cold is relative. To us Floridians, weather that is in the 40s Fahrenheit, that was cold. That was very cold for us. And so we started wearing coats on occasion, in the evenings in particular, around the end of September, beginning of October. And then we gradually worked to the point where we were wearing coats even in the daytime.
Yes.
Coats and scarves right on through maybe the beginning to the middle of April. So don't think that if you move to Nice, you're going to escape cold weather. It does get cold. It doesn't really snow here, although I think I have a postcard somewhere of a picture of a day when it actually did snow.
It did
I forget
snow.
how many years ago it was. They had snow here in Nice.
But
it doesn't get that cold.
But for the 2 years we've been here, the winters have been cold but not snowy.
But for those of you coming from Canada or Scandinavia, you'll probably think, oh, it's wonderful.
Feels like summertime.
What a mild winter.
Yes.
But to us, it's not a mild winter.
Right. So another thing that we found, that living in Nice, the public transportation, the buses and the trams here have given us the ability to get everywhere we need to go in town without needing a car. So for the first time in both of our lives, we do not have a car to drive around.
Pretty liberating.
Sometimes when we go to see the lavender fields, we'll rent a car at the train terminal and drive out for the day or two. But basically, day in, day out, we walk and we use the public transportation here. And it's very well designed, works really good. I would say it's one of the easiest and most pedestrian-friendly cities I have ever seen in my whole life.
And because of that, if you're thinking about, well, where should I move to in France? A good way to cut your expenses is move someplace that has an excellent public transportation system so that you don't need to own a car.
Right.
I mean, it's very expensive to find parking here in Nice. They're trying to discourage people from living here with a car. And there are parking spots, of course, and there are parking lots, of course, but we have found it very easy on our budget to live with public transportation. As a matter of fact, here in Nice, they recently passed a law that starting September 1st, everyone who is over the age of 65 that lives here, you have to be a resident, will have free public transportation. You'll simply pay a 15 euro processing fee to probably get a little card so that you just swipe that on the tram instead of whatever you've been buying. So, I mean, we're on the current program for public transportation. When we first got here, we were buying 1-year senior discount tram passes, and we had it on an app on our cell phone. And whenever we went onto the tram, we would simply swipe our pass off the app.
Our phone.
So the policy was that after you have been here for at least a year and you have filed your annual France tax declaration, you do that and then you get a formal tax bill in August or September. If you get a tax bill that says you owe 0 taxes to France, when it's time to renew that 1-year annual senior discount pass, you take your pass into the ligne d'azur office and you take your France tax bill from the impôt office, the actual formal bill, You take that there along with your passport and your carte de séjour, your titre de séjour, and they renewed our senior discount pass for 1 year at basically, it was just the €15 administrative fee. And we had to pay €2 because they had to put it on a plastic card.
Yep.
They won't do that on the app. Now we have our senior tram passes. We have a card. We can't use it on the app now. And so our senior tram pass is good for a whole year. By the time it's going to be time to renew that, we'll be able to do it under the new system. They have not announced the exact procedure on how to get whatever you need to prove that you're over 65. My guess is you'll have to go to your local Ligne d'Azur office here in Nice with your passport, your residence card, titre de séjour, carte de séjour. Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see what the requirements are, probably as we get closer to September 1st when it goes into effect.
We'll get an update.
We'll get an update and we'll be happy to share that with you. But for now, I mean, the fact that our public transportation is virtually zero out of pocket, that's pretty good and a big savings when you think about how much it costs in the United States to own a car. The cost of the car, lease payments, car payments, insurance, gasoline, upkeep, maintenance, tires, all of that. We have none of that. And so it's kept our expenses here low.
And one of the big features is when we used to live in the United States, we would drive to the airport. We'd have to pay money to park our car as we're out of town. Here in Nice, the tram takes you right to the airport. So we leave our apartment, dragging a suitcase, get on the tram, it takes us right into the terminal.
And that tram is 5 minutes from here.
So we don't pay for parking for a car while we're out of town. And when we come home, we just get on the tram and come back to our apartment.
Right.
It's really well thought out the way they've done the public transportation here.
Yeah, and the same thing to take a train. We walk 5 minutes to the tram. I mean, not every tram is going to be 5 minutes from where everybody lives,
Right.
but in our case, we lucked out and we found an apartment that's 5 minutes from 2 tram stops that will take us to the train station or to the airport. So we just have to walk 5 minutes with our luggage. Not hard to do. So,
And the trains in France are actually very nice. We just took a trip on a train, went all the way to Paris on a train and came back. As you leave the area that's the city itself, the coastal trains take you all along wherever you need to go.
yeah. For us, Nice has been a very good base to live in because we have Italy is just across the border by train. It's
Yep.
what, a 45-minute
Train ride.
train ride to the first stop in Italy. And we can take a train all the way across the country. We can take a train up north. You can take a train to Italy and pick up another train to get on to see a bunch of Italy. And you can probably take another train from the major stations in Italy to go beyond Italy. And from Paris, you can take trains to all over the place. I think there's a train to Switzerland. You can go to Germany.
Right.
The trains sort of connect from one country to the other. And being based here in Nice has been great. All right, so one of the first things you're going to have to deal with if you decide that you'd like to move to France is getting a long stay visa. And I have discussed this in other videos, how to get a long stay visa. And it's very easy. I have to tell you, applying for the long stay visa is the easiest part of the entire process in moving to France. So to get a long stay visa, it's a 2-part process, and I've discussed it in other videos. Basically, you're going to do an online application, which is very simple, and you don't have to submit any kind of documents. And then the second part is that if you're coming from the United States, you have to set up an appointment with one of the TLS offices TLS is a third-party contractor that the France embassy has hired. And basically what they do is they collect your documentation, they review it to make sure you have all of the documentation that you need to submit your visa. You give them all the documentation, they fingerprint you, they take your picture if they don't like the photos that you showed up with, and then they forward all of your information to the France embassy for you on your behalf. And then typically within 5 to 7 days, if it's positive, if you're approved, you'll receive your visa in the mail and life will be wonderful. And you'll think, wow, that happened really fast. And that's the last time you'll think that. Because the next thing that you're going to do when you come to France is you're going to validate your visa, and you have to do that within 90 days. Some people think, oh, I'm not going to do it until I have a firm address because they're living in an Airbnb. It's a good idea if you have a firm address, but if you're in an Airbnb for getting close to 90 days, you're going to have a problem because you really have to validate that visa, or the whole visa is going to go away if you didn't validate it. So you may validate it while you're living in an Airbnb. Just give them the address of the Airbnb. Now, the one issue with this is you're going to get an appointment or get a letter from OFII, which is the Office of Immigration, and they're going to want you to come in and do a medical review. It's not a big deal. And if you're over 65, they're only going to do a medical review. They're not going to want an x-ray or a physical exam. There are some exceptions, but typically if you're retiring to France from the United States and you're over 65, they'll invite you for a medical review where they sit with you for about 20 minutes and they go over your entire medical history just to make sure that you're not bringing any communicable diseases into France. Okay, so you need to validate your visa. That's a no-brainer. We did it immediately when we got here. We didn't waste any time, and I suggest that everybody do it that way, but some people would rather wait until they've got a permanent address. You can always change your address, update your address when you do an application. It'll just update it in the system. So it's not a big deal if you're using your Airbnb address. The only problem you'll have is if OFII mails you the letter with your appointment by regular mail. Some people are getting those appointments in their email. We got ours by paper mail. And you just never know. It varies according to the prefecture. And even within that same prefecture, we're here in Nice. Many people we know got their invitation for their OFII meeting by email. We got ours in paper mail. Now let's talk about healthcare here in France. It's a little bit different than the United States. You don't have to be part of France's national healthcare system to make an appointment with a doctor. You can simply go to an app called Doctolib, download it on your phone, or you can pull it up online on your laptop. And you can search for a doctor, you can search for specialists, you can search for labs, you can search for dentists. It's a very helpful way to find the medical or dental attention, vision care, ophthalmologists, any kind of specialist. You can search for them all online according to wherever you are in France. It's far less expensive than in the United States. And after you've lived here for 3 months, you can get on the national healthcare system, which is great. And once you get on the national healthcare system, you've got all kinds of great, wonderful benefits to save you lots of money compared to what it used to cost to take care of your health and stay in good health back in the United States. So it's a lot less expensive. Prescription drugs are far less expensive here. Even specialists, although some of them will require that you pay out of pocket. Some of them don't participate in the national health care system, and so you'll be paying them 100% of what their fee is. Their fee is still less than what you would be paying back in the United States if you were seeing that kind of specialist. And so far, with the exception of one of my prescriptions, most of my prescriptions before I got on the national health care system, they were under €5 each for 1 month. But in talking about how things are different here with health care, ladies, one thing is a mammogram. When you go to the United States, when you go to the lab to have a mammogram done, we all know you check in and they bring you back and they give you, take you to a dressing room, and you take off everything from the waist up and they give you a cute little gown to wear. And you wear that gown for most of the entirety of having your mammogram done. Here in France, you're going to thank me for this warning, there is no dressing room, there is no cute little gown. When you go to a lab where they do a mammogram, they're going to take you into the office where the machine is, and the technician will say, okay, take off everything from the waist up. And she'll be back in the corner with her machine getting it set up while you're doing this, and she'll come out and do the mammogram. The first time I had this done, I had some warning, so I knew to expect that this is the way it was going to be. But I didn't expect that the room we were in was going to have this big window. And so it kind of caught me off guard for a moment. We were on a higher floor in the hospital where I had it done, and I was not in perfect view of some other window. So the likelihood that somebody was standing there with a telescope checking out the ladies' boobies in the mammogram office, pretty slim. But just be, forewarned. I mean, modesty is not a big thing here in France. So you have to be ready for that. Also, it is pretty standard for them to do a mammogram and then immediately after do an ultrasound. They cover all the bases at one time. And they will give you your results. Typically, when you finish the mammogram, you'll wait for a few minutes and then they will type up the report and they will call you in, and somebody, the doctor who reviewed the mammogram, will go over the mammogram with you right there, so you'll know before you leave if there is any kind of problem. When I went to get a bone density test, I didn't have to take any clothes off. I think I had to unzip my jeans. I think there was the metal zipper was an issue. But other than that, that was simple. The first administrative thing that you're going to want to do after you get here, after you've been here for 90 days, is apply for the France National Healthcare System, CPAM. And so you can't do that until you've lived here for 90 days, because you're going to have to prove you've actually lived here by providing copies of utility bills that are in your name that show usage. This could be an electric bill, cell phone bill. You're going to have to provide a copy of your lease and various other documents. Now, when you apply for the National Health Care System, you do this application, you print out the application, and you're going to submit everything in paper, and it's going to have to be mailed to CPAM. Now, a lot of people call this, they're applying for their carte vitale. Let me make something very clear. The carte vitale is just a plastic card. It's not the thing. You're applying for the National Healthcare System. The plastic card is incidental. It's an ID card. You will get into the National Healthcare System whether you have a carte vitale in your hands or not. That plastic carte vitale just makes it easy at checkout, at point of purchase, to make payment, because they can slide it into a machine and it automatically finds your account with Amelie, the division of the French government that manages the healthcare system. That card just makes everything easier. The reality is you are applying for inclusion in the National Healthcare System, CPAM. So you submit all of that documentation by mail, registered mail, and then it can take months for you to hear anything. In our case, it took 2 months before we heard anything, and then they needed some additional information, and they sent the request for additional information by paper mail, the post. So we had to keep an eye on our paper mail. So if you apply for the healthcare system, you don't want to go off and disappear on vacation for a month if you're waiting to get approved, especially if they contact you and need more information. They're going to send that by mail, not email, and you're going to have to respond with hard paper documents. So that can take months. So that's the first thing that you're going to apply for, and you're going to feel like it takes forever to hear from them because they don't respond. They may send you a confirmation, they may not send you a confirmation, but there is an Amelie English helpline. But I wouldn't start nagging them like, where's my stuff? Did I get approved? Where's my carte vitale? Blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't even bother with them unless you haven't heard from them for 2 or 3 months. You just have to learn patience. And that is going to be the very first time you're going to find out how slow things move here in France. Patience is going to be your new key word. The good news is that when you're on the healthcare system here in France, you're going to save yourself a whole lot of money compared to the US. For example, your first medical appointment at a doctor's office is only going to be 30 euros, and every doctor's appointment after that is going to be 25 euros. Also, there's no such thing as pre-existing conditions here in France. It costs the same for everybody, whether it's a pre-existing condition or not a pre-existing condition. Pre-existing conditions, that's something created by US insurance companies. So if you're coming here with a pre-existing condition, you have no concerns at all. And as I said, you're going to save a whole lot of money because things are so inexpensive here. Once you're on France's national health care system, they're going to reimburse typically around 70% of most of your medical costs. And you can purchase an optional mutuelle plan, which in the US is like a Medicare supplemental plan. You can purchase one of those for far less than what those Medicare supplemental plans cost in the US. And that will pick up the other 30% or most of what the France national healthcare system didn't cover. So you'll save a lot of money. Now that we're on France's national healthcare system, and we also have a mutuelle plan, we pretty much pay zero out of pocket for most of our medical care. And a lot of our dental care is ridiculously low cost. Our mutuelle plan every 2 years covers the cost of new glasses at nothing out of pocket. Jeff wears hearing aids and they were covered. We had to get a mutuelle that covered top of the line hearing aids because of the hearing loss that he has. And cost of the hearing aids was already less than what it cost in the US. And then our mutuelle plan and the national healthcare system took off a huge chunk so that he paid a small price compared to what he paid for those same hearing aids in the United States. That is going to be a big plus for you as far as healthcare goes. And you don't have to be in the national healthcare system to be taken care of by doctors here. When you first arrive here, if you get sick and you need an appointment, you just make an appointment on the Doctolib app, find a general practitioner and make an appointment. And the cost out of pocket is the same to you as it would be to anybody who lives here. The only difference would be that once you're living here and on the French healthcare system, they will reimburse most of your out-of-pocket costs. And often, here's where that little plastic card comes into significance. If you have one of those cards and you shove it in the machine, your reimbursement is often immediate. After you're approved for the healthcare system, they'll send you a letter and they'll say, hey, you know, you're approved for the healthcare system. Would you like a carte vitale? And if you say yes, then you'll sign a piece of paper, you'll provide a photo, you'll mail it back, and a few weeks later, you'll get your little carte vitale. But you don't need the carte vitale to be in the healthcare system or to have services reimbursed by the healthcare system. How much does it cost for us to be in the healthcare system? It is not costing us any kind of monthly social fees to be in the healthcare system. This is going to change probably this year. In the French legislature at the end of last year, they passed a ruling that now they will start to charge people who come from outside France who did not pay into the tax system, who did not earn money here and pay into the tax system, make tax contributions. They will start charging us a nominal fee to be included in the healthcare system. And we're happy to pay that. So we don't know what it's going to be. It will probably be based on whatever you say in your France tax declaration. As far as your overall income, it'll probably be based on what your income. They're probably not going to charge people like us who are living on just our U.S. Social Security a whole lot of money. But whatever it is, we're happy to contribute to the system. It's got to be less than what we were paying for health care in the United States. And if you're living in the United States still, you know what I'm talking about. It's not cheap to have health care in the United States. So many people get approved within 2 or 3 months, and then the last piece of it after you're approved is that carte vitale, the coveted carte vitale. And that, again, is just a plastic ID card. The first thing you'll get before that is what's called an attestation de droit. And that is a paper that says you have been approved. You are now part of France's national healthcare system, and it has a social security number. And that social security number is not the same as the social security number in the U.S. Here, social security is about the healthcare system. So that social security number is your ID number in the healthcare system. That's why if you don't have a carte vitale, a plastic ID card, it's not a big deal. You just show your attestation de droit at the doctor and pharmacy and dental office. Okay, now talking about medical prescriptions. Prescriptions are called ordonnances. Typically, they come on a piece of paper that your doctor prints out or emails you, and if you have 10 prescriptions, you'll have one piece of paper with all the prescriptions listed on there that you bring to a pharmacy. And if you come here, even if you come here on vacation and you're running out of your prescription, you can simply, you have to make an appointment with a French doctor. So go on Dr. Lib and make an appointment, and you simply tell them that you're running out of a prescription. Now, when you move here, it's a good idea to bring a copy of your medical history. I had contacted our doctor in the U.S. and asked him, now we were already in France when I asked for it, but I asked him for a copy of our medical history with him, and we had been using him for 8 years. So he had his secretary convert it into a PDF document, and then she emailed us copies of our health history. It was a few pages long. And when I went to see the general practitioner here for the very first time to get some prescriptions, new prescriptions, I brought her that medical history to review. And I also asked the doctor if he could give me a list of just the prescriptions that I was on, the name of them, the dosage, how often I take them, and what they were for, and put that on his letterhead. And so I also had a sheet of prescriptions. So it made it very easy for that very first appointment with the doctor to just show her all of this. She reviewed it. In the end, she refilled, or not refilled, but she gave me brand new prescriptions for everything that I was taking in the U.S. They may not have been called the same thing in the U.S. as they are here in France, but I was able to find everything that I was taking in the U.S. and get prescriptions. Now, in my case, for some of those prescriptions, they required blood work for the doctor in the U.S. to determine the dosage. So the France doctor that I had started to use, just to be on the comfortable side for her, she asked me to go and get labs done. So she gave me the prescription to go to a lab. I walked into the lab the next morning, and we had a lab a few doors down from where we live. I walked in, I had the blood work done. By that afternoon, the results I received notification from the lab that I had results. They sent me a link to get them. I sent the results over to the doctor that I had met with in case she didn't get the results at that point. And then she emailed me a sheet of all of my new prescriptions. So it's very easy to get prescriptions here. It's far easier to get them than to walk into a pharmacy with a prescription and say, oh, can you fill this? I'm running out. You'll be better off if you find a doctor and do it that way. The other thing that takes a long time is if you're coming from a state where there is reciprocity and you can exchange your U.S. driver's license for a France driver's license, you file that application, and when you file that application, you do that online. And when you have submitted it, you'll get an email confirmation, and typically the email says, don't expect to hear from us for between 8 and 10 months. And they're serious. You won't hear from them for what seems like an eternity. And then all of a sudden they'll get to your application, and if they need more documentation, they will ask you. And you'll need to respond to it. The entire process has to be complete. The back and forth, if they ask for more information, you've got to submit it, and then they have to re-review it. Everything has to be totally complete by the time you complete your first year here. So you have to apply for this pretty much after you've been here for 2 to 3 months, because you're going to have to prove that you live here. I'm pretty sure we had to submit a copy of a utility bill. So you can't do it the day that you set foot in France. You have to prove that you're actually living here in order for them to do that driver's license exchange. But you still are able to keep your U.S. driver's license and use that as a driver's license for that 1 year while you're going through this process. Submitting your license for exchange is the very, very last step. And before you put it in the mail, they're going to send you a letter saying you've been approved for your France driver's license, and to carry this document with you and make a Xerox copy of your driver's license and have the two of them, so that if you get stopped and they're looking for a driver's license, you have your old U.S. license copy and you have the letter stating that you've been approved for the France license. But it does take a long time. The other thing is when you renew your visa, you have to renew your visa 3 to 4 months. That's when you have to start the application to renew it. And then you submit it, and then you'll wait what seems like an eternity before you hear from them. And some of the prefectures are very backed up. Here in Nice, typically they're so backed up that you end up getting a letter close to the expiration date of your current visa that says, we have your application for renewal. However, we're not going to be able to process it in time, so here's an extension of that visa that you already have. And so you'll just have to hold on to that attestation that extends your visa temporarily. But it can take a long time. So again, the key word, patience. Everything takes a long time to process here in France, and it's just part of the red tape and bureaucracy. So be ready for it. Don't say I didn't warn you. Big topic. French. Do you need to know French to live here?
The language. Fortunately, in our situation, Anne becomes my interpreter.
But let's start at the beginning.
Okay, let's start at the beginning.
When you come here on vacation, you come to Nice, and you're hanging out in tourist areas. Everybody speaks English, as they say. The restaurants speak English. The shopkeepers speak English. Everybody in those tourist areas speaks English. And so when you come here on vacation, it's a lot different than actually living here.
Yes.
As my sweetheart has found out.
Yes.
When you live here, a lot of us don't live in tourist areas. We live in a residential neighborhood. Now, we may only be 2 blocks away from where you'll see a lot of tourists and a lot of people. That 2 blocks makes a big difference. when you're living in a residential area and when you're literally living here, you're dealing with people who may not necessarily speak English. Your landlord may or may not speak English. Your management company, if you're renting, may or may not speak English. And the service trades, forget about depending on English. I would say 95% of them, maybe 99% of them do not speak English. Now, if you go on some forums, some people may have been lucky and found somebody in their part of the country that speaks English. Like they found the one plumber who speaks English or the one electrician. However, we haven't been so lucky. And for us, it started with dealing with an issue when we had our internet cable installed and Free Internet, which Free is the name of the company. They sent an installer who didn't really know what he was doing, and there had never been, I guess, internet in our building.
Right.
Okay, so I learned French, and I speak fairly well. I studied for 8 years, but when I studied French back in the 60s and 70s,
they didn't talk about fiber optic network.
There was no vocabulary on how to deal with the cable guy. And so even I was at a loss. And so when the guy came in, fortunately, it was a nice guy, and he was willing to pull up Google Translate, and we communicated with him, and we communicated with his manager back at the main office, trying to work out the problem, and even the manager did not speak any English. So it was totally Google Translate, and it was a major frustration initially. We ended up having to enlist one of our friends who happened to be the owner of a restaurant that was below us, who spoke very good English, and he pretended to be Jeff and called the cable company and raised hell as Jeff to reschedule our cable appointment. But we've had an electrician come, we've had a plumber come, no English.
Right.
We had to have one of the electric shutters replaced, right? He didn't speak any English, but that was another nice guy who pulled out Google Translate when he realized that he was telling us things that I was having a little bit of a hard time understanding. So the language is important if you're going to live here.
Yes.
And especially if you're not going to live in a tourist area. And nobody wants to live in tourist areas. I mean, if you come here on vacation, book an Airbnb in Old Town and just spend one night living in Old Town with all the people and all the noise, and you will understand why the last place in the world you want to live, at least here in Nice, is in a tourist area. But setting that piece of it aside, I now call Jeff boulangerie fluent.
Yes.
Because he has mastered the art of going into a boulangerie and he can order pretty much anything he wants in French, starting with the bonjour, finishing with bonjourne, au revoir.
Always start with bonjour. Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Yes. So, and the French that he knows, he may not say it perfectly. Jeff makes a hearty attempt at speaking, and often I have to coach him, but as he started out to say, I'm his translator, and he is fully aware he needs me.
I do.
It's a good place for me. A good place for me to be. It's like sort of job security for my position as his wife. He needs me.
And speaking of French,
Yes.
many of the documents you need here, like your birth certificates and your driving history and different things you bring from the United States, have to be translated into French in order to be submitted when you apply to the government for things.
But you can't do this back in the U.S. You have to wait until you're living here. They need to be translated by a France court-certified translator. And this is not cheap. I mean, we were paying anywhere between 35 and 70 euros per page.
Right.
And the price of the translation, it's not across the board. We would email the document that we needed translated to the translator, and she would look it over and determine how long it was going to take her to translate. So if it was a very simple document, it might only be 35 or 40 euros per page for that. If it was a very detailed document, like, for example, driving history, if you're doing a driver's license exchange,
Right.
if you've got a long driving history that's many pages long, that's a lot of translation with words from top to bottom that need to be translated. That could cost you a lot. When it comes time to renew your visa and you have to submit bank statements, if you don't have a French bank account where all of your money that you need to show that you qualify for to continue living in France, if you don't have all of that money coming into your France bank account like us, and you have to submit multiple bank accounts from the US, all of those US bank account statements, they're going to have to be translated. And more important than that, you're going to have all of the dollars converted from US dollars to euros based on the date of deposit. So that was like a real headache for a translator. So it's, I'll go into banking from here, but just keep in mind that you are going to have to pay for translation services.
For documents.
And we have a great translator here in France. If you contact me privately by email, I am happy to give you her email information. She happens to do it part-time. She's not doing it full-time, but she's great. She is the least expensive translator that we have found, and she speaks English perfectly, obviously. She'd have to. And the price was right, and she's fast.
Yeah.
But you're going to need that. So you're going to have to add the cost of translating. The things that needed to be translated were a marriage license, birth certificates, driving history if you're exchanging your driver's license from a reciprocal state in the US for a France license, or driver's licenses.
Yes.
Driver's licenses had to be translated in order to submit them for the driver's license exchange, and both sides of the license had to be translated. And again, you have to wait until you get to France to do it, because you need the services of a France court-certified translator. And when they translate each page, they have a seal that they stamp the page with. Looks like a notary seal, and that's stamped at the top of each page that they translate, and then they sign it. So that's going to be part of the budget. Getting a bank account here in France, ultimately you're probably going to end up needing one. Initially, we started with a Wise card, and there are a lot of people who come here and they use a Wise card or they use Resolute. And you can pay your bills, you can pay your rent, you can pay your utilities with a Resolute card. And we did ours with the Wise card initially. We ended up getting a France bank account because we decided to have our US Social Security dropped automatically at the beginning of each month, deposited into our France bank account as euros, so that we're living our life as in euros. Now, I can get into all the reasons why we chose to do that in another video, and I have already discussed it in other videos. What it does for us is it has our financial situation when it comes time to renew our titre de séjour, residence permit. Everything is in one bank account. The bank account statement shows our U.S. Social Security money directly deposited into the account by the U.S. Department of State at the beginning of every month. And we have debit cards on that one bank account, and all of our expenses come out of that one bank account. So the rent is set up to auto pay right from that account. Our electric bill, our cell phone bills, any of our other subscriptions, they're all set up to auto pay directly from that account. So when it comes time to renew our visa, we simply submit a copy of our France bank statement. It's already in French. So we don't have to have the statement translated. We simply upload it. And in that regard, because the money that's going into our France bank account is quite a bit more than the minimum required financially to get your visa renewed here in France. We don't even have to show them our US bank accounts anymore. But for now, because we told the French government, we're going to come to France and we're going to live here totally on our US Social Security benefits. Our France bank statement proves that this is what we're doing. And so for the last 2 years, when we have renewed our visa, our titre de séjour, we've only shown them the one France bank statement. Never had to bother with any of our US investment statements or other bank statements. So it makes renewing your visa easy. You just upload one bank statement, it's in French, and there you have it. So now getting back to opening a bank account here, it's not as easy as in the US because again, this is France. And in France, they're very concerned about money laundering. And so when you walk into a France bank, typically you want to ask for the international accounts person because even though you're not going to be living in the US, you're going to be living here, you're an American. And so they have different requirements, different filing requirements with the bank for dealing with people that don't have French citizenship. So you'll have to meet with their international banking representative, and you will have to submit a lot of financial information. Things like your last tax return, I think we had to do rent receipts, we had to do copies of our passports, our birth certificate, our marriage license. We had to submit bank statements from all of our US banks and our investment company. They wanted all of the financial statements. So it's basically, for the most part, everything you submitted to get a visa or that you will submit to get your very first long stay visa, the bank is going to want to see all of that information as well. And then they review it. So you can't just walk in and get a bank account in a half hour. We had to submit all of that information in advance and then set up the appointment to go and meet with the representative. By that time, they had reviewed our information. And then you cannot deposit cash or a check from the US to open your account. As I mentioned, they're very concerned about money laundering. So the money that you open your account with, you don't put into the account until after the account has been approved and is open. And then they will give you France IBAN numbers, and you have to wire the money from your US account into the France bank account. They want to see a money trail, paper trail of where the money started. And what we found to be very helpful and less expensive than dealing with our US bank is we used our Wise card to do the money transfer. So I would transfer the money from our US bank to our Wise card, and it probably works the same with Resolute. And then from the Wise card, we transferred it to the France bank. So don't count on coming here and getting a bank account immediately. Now, a lot of you are going to say, I couldn't get a cell phone without a bank account, and I couldn't get a bank account without an address. Well,
that's a catch-22.
You do have that, but we were able to get a cell phone account using our Wise card as the bank account, and people are using their Resolute card as the bank account because you need a France IBAN number so that those accounts can be directly debited. The other thing is, when we rented our apartment, we didn't have to provide the bank information until after we got our lease, after we signed the lease. And so even though they say that you need an address to get a bank account, but you can't get a lease without a bank account, you can. You simply have to just time it very quickly.
Yes.
So you come here, a lot of people come and they stay in an Airbnb for a few weeks or a few months while they're looking for an apartment. While you're here, you find the apartment, you sign the lease, and then literally the next day, your landlord may want you to deposit money. So if you start working on getting that bank account before you sign the lease, by the time you're ready to actually send the landlord money, you will have a bank account. Simply tell them that you're in the process of getting a bank account. Right. And there are some agencies here that work with American expats, and will actually act as an introduction, or they will introduce you to their contact at the bank to help you open that bank account. So you can also do that.
Right.
But it sounds like it's like catch-22, and I can't do that without this, and I can't do this without that. In time, it all works out. It'll all fall into place because, as I said, the landlord, at least with us, the landlord or the management company did not look for payment the immediate day that we signed the lease. So I didn't have to give them our bank information that day or before we signed the lease. So, another topic, dealing with French people. My rule in dealing with French people is to let the French people guide the relationship. French people are very nice, wonderful, warm people. However, initially, you may find that they're very standoffish. They're very private. Some people coming from the U.S., they look at French people the way they act and they go, oh, they're so rude. Well, they're not rude. They're just very private people. For example, when you walk down a street in the United States, typically if you make eye contact with someone, it's very typical for us to just say hi. Here, you would never do that. And if you did, they might just look at you strange or just ignore you. So that's not something that is typically done. Some people are huggers. I mean, we like to hug people when we meet people or we, get to know people. When we see them, we hug them, may kiss them. Do not do that with French people. They will be offended by that because they feel like you're invading their space. And so it's not something you want to do from the get-go. Again, you let them be your guide. We've met wonderful people in our building. We've lived here over 2 years. We're very cordial when we see them, very friendly, chatty. One couple speaks excellent English, so we've been able to have excellent conversations with Jeff included. Sometimes if I run into her just alone, I'll speak with her totally in French. We have not felt comfortable enough, and apparently they have not either, to socialize with them. They have suggested restaurants that we go to, however, they have not suggested that we do it all together. So it's very good to just let French people guide the relationship. It's like when you're speaking French, the vous and the tu. Tu is supposed to be reserved for, family and people that you know very well, good friends. Vous is the formal you. I never change to tu unless a French person starts speaking to me using that pronoun. And so let them guide you. If they are saying tu instead of vous, then oh, it's okay. They now see this relationship in that degree of closeness, I guess. So don't come here and expect that they're going to greet you with open arms or that they're rude. Just let them be the guide. If they say hello to you, obviously say bonjour back, but if they say nothing, then you say nothing. And those are my tips for dealing with French people. And again, they're very nice people. People that we have spoken to, they're all very nice and friendly, but you don't want to cross the line on the relationship. They'll let you know when it can be crossed. So that's our video for today. We really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel. It really, really does help us. We appreciate it more than you can imagine. It allows us to be able to continue to provide you with very informative videos like this one and all of the others that we have done. And so if you like the videos that we present, please do us a favor, subscribe. You can either use this little QR code. Just aim your camera, your cell phone camera lens at it, and a little website will pop up. It'll take you to our main page of our YouTube channel, and just look for the word subscribe and click on it there, or you can look below this video and you can click on subscribe there. And we'd appreciate it if you enjoyed this video, found it of value. Give us a thumbs up. And thank you so much. We know this video was a little bit long, but we wanted to give you the details, the things that you really need to know if you're thinking about making that big life move from wherever you are to France, to beautiful France. We are so glad we made the move.
We are very happy. We love it here. So check it out, subscribe, and keep watching for more information.
And don't forget Jeff's channel.
Yeah.
He doesn't do videos all the time, but when he's got something to say, it's pretty informative as well. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Say goodbye, Bella. Bye, Bella.